Welcome to Leadership Rediscovered. I'm your host, Laura Siebold, and today I am really excited, and everyone's going to be excited because I have Sarah Giosi here with me. And if you didn't get a chance to grab a cup of coffee before this episode, don't worry. You don't need one because Sarah Giosi has enough energy to power the world. I am convinced of it. Sarah Giosi, welcome to Leadership Rediscovered.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
I am happy that you're here. So I'll do a bio here and then we can dive into the conversation. But Sarah's official bio. Sarah Giosi is a woman of faith, widow, mother to 2 young children, and community wellness advocate. She is the owner and CEO of CrossFit Morgantown and founder of the charitable organization Forgiven Warrior, which we are going to talk about all of that. Sarah is also the owner and CEO of Giosi Wellness, where she executes wellness coaching, motivational speaking, which we'll get some of today, I'm sure of it, online mindset and nutrition courses, and hosts a weekly podcast called Potential Podcast that you all need to check out because it's really good. So just a plug, Potential Podcast, Sarah Giosi in the house today. I do have to disclose that we were originally supposed to get together just for coffee this morning.
Yeah.
And I was planning on, during that coffee gathering, asking you to be a guest on the podcast. But instead, in rather last minute notice, I sent you an email and said, hey, instead of, that cup of coffee, can we just share that in front of 2 microphones?
Yeah, right.
And you being the amazing, wonderful person, gracious person that you are, said, sure.
Yeah. No, actually, comfort zone right here.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Tell
Minus
us about
the
that.
allergy
Well,
part that's going on,
I know.
but, tis the season.
Tis the season.
That's all right.
Yes. Yeah. So I just want to get right started with you telling us about your journey, your leadership journey. But yes, you are a professional in front of the mic. So
Yes.
we'd like to hear about that too.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if that comes across today. So leadership journey is really interesting. And I will tell you this, already I'm sidetracking, but well done you, because when you did this little flip and you're like, instead of coffee, let's have coffee and talk about leadership. It was really good for me because it made me start to think more about leadership much more intentionally. And I realized it almost felt inauthentic to come in here and talk about my points of view on leadership and how I'm a great leader because I've never led myself.
Oh, interesting.
And so it forced me into a really good place of just kind of reflecting over the last couple of days about what is leadership, why is it important, do I do it well? And I actually, last minute, 9:30 p.m. last night, sent out like a dozen messages
No way.
to either people I'm currently leading or people I used to lead and said, don't overthink this. I am doing a leadership podcast tomorrow. Yep. When you think of me in leadership, what do you think? And it can be good or bad. I won't be mad at you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was really cool. And they were still coming in. I put my phone on airplane mode because they were still coming in. I think 11 out of the 12 came back, which is really cool.
You said it at 9:30 last night,
Yes.
so that's impressive.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's also been another really good tool in helping me see the things that I thought were working that are, or the things where they're like, you could grow here. And I'm like, all right, add that to the journey.
Oh my gosh.
We've got growth to do.
That is awesome.
Isn't that good?
Okay, we'll just incorporate that into the pre-podcast session from now on. There's a recommendation from leader Sarah Giosi.
There you go.
At 9:30 at night. Send out
the night before so that they can't overthink it.
Exactly.
And
that's true.
You know?
You didn't have time to overthink it either because I didn't give you a lot of notice.
So anyways, the journey. So leadership's this really funny thing. I think some people are born leaders. You hear that. But leadership is the skill that you can develop. Yes. And I actually think for those of us, because I will self-identify as someone who was born as more of a natural leader. I've always led. But that could almost be harder than if I was more introverted or it wasn't natural and I knew I needed to work on it. I have to be more intentional. Yes. And going all the way back to my childhood, I had all of these, I just always, at the time, it was bossy. I was just bossy. Because not all leadership's good either. You can be a bad leader.
True.
And
still
so,
leading. Maybe not great.
Right.
But.
So I was a bossy little girl, which gives me hope because my oldest son, my 4-year-old, like he's pretty bossy.
Aww.
And I'm like, oh, natural born leader right there. Just we're going to mold that. Yeah. So going through, how I got to where I am now very quickly. This is the super Spark Notes version.
Love it.
I had some different leadership roles all throughout. After I graduated a little bit early from college to go and start working in theater, and ended up very quickly just like some of the fates, situational things put me in leadership very quickly. And I ended up in my, very early mid-20s. I was a national and international theater producer.
Oh, wow.
And then brought that back around to be a radio producer and on-air personality.
Very
and then
cool.
came home. And so people locally get to kind of see that side of me here doing morning radio shows. And the whole time I had special interest and also passion and also certifications and things in community wellness.
Yeah.
And so the nonprofit side was huge for me, really working on wellness within the community. And I define that, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, at some point, but I say it's the 5 buckets. So it's spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, and social.
Okay.
And to me, that's complete wellness.
That's
a lot of
person.
people, yes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think it's just the physical side. I own a gym.
Right.
Physical side's important, but all the things.
It's all of it.
So I've always, in these radio gigs and things, I was always kind of underlying. And then I met this man, the most incredible man on earth. And he owned a gym. So I married into entrepreneurship.
Ooh.
That's part of the
Married
leadership
into it.
journey.
Uh-huh.
Trust me.
Yes.
And we own this gym, and then we started the podcast, and then we have Giosi Wellness. And then he did pass away. He passed away January of 2021, so we can get that out there because that's a big part of my story. So it'll come up.
Yeah.
And then since his passing, I have, with a pretty intimate group of folks, we have founded a nonprofit too.
Oh, and that's Forgiven Warrior?
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to hear about that too.
Yeah, so all sorts of good things, but it's kind of, if you were to look at it from afar, you'd be like, well, she doesn't know what she's doing. Theater to radio to owning a gym.
It's coming together right now.
It all comes together, and
Yeah.
it's all, if you actually look, always, it was about community wellness and then how to use my voice to help impact that. So there you go.
And I love that too, because I feel like you know what your strengths are, and you, through these different opportunities that you've had, you're refining to the point where you're able to use the gifts that you have, the strengths that you have, in a way that works for you.
I hope so.
Yeah. And then we all get the benefit of it too, which is great. So, okay, take us back a little bit, because I do want to talk about, you married into entrepreneurship, right? So I would love to hear about, what was your role in CrossFit Morgantown prior to Jeff's passing, and then, with the implosion of, everything in your life changing, right? Yeah. I'm sure it impacted not only your leadership there within the business and your businesses, but then also in your household as well. So take us through that transformation from a leadership perspective.
Yeah. So just to provide this much context for people listening. So my husband was quite literally, like I have the data to prove it, one of the fittest and healthiest men on the face of the planet.
Unbelievable.
Because that's what we do in CrossFit. We do international competitions, something like he was literally one of the
fittest.
fittest.
You have the data to back it
up.
It's not just, personal bias.
And one day he got up, he kissed me goodbye, and that was it.
Wow.
And he had it was a genetic disorder that we did not know about. There was some family history, but like nothing to. Yeah. And he had a aortic aneurysm, and within a second, he was just gone.
Wow.
And a few things are really impactful about that have majorly changed me as a leader. Mm-hmm. Yes, my whole world was just flipped. Mm-hmm. And for me, the way we ran our house and the way we worked in our marriage, we had this amazing marriage. Like people, unless you knew us, I can't say it in a way that you'll believe without seeing it, because it was that good.
Yeah.
It was movie marriage. Yeah.
That's great.
It was. It was just, it was great.
Yeah.
And you can kind of hear it a little bit. You mentioned the podcast. So he was originally my co-host
Yes.
on the podcast. And you can hear us banter. We just had a lot of
Yes.
fun together. And so he was my co-host. He was my partner in the business. He was in all of our businesses.
Yeah.
He was my co-parent. He was my lover. He was my husband. He
Mhm.
was, I don't care how, cliche, he was my absolute best friend in the world.
Yeah, he's your partner in everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
And he was just gone.
Mm.
And he was also a large, if you think I have energy, oh, you have no idea.
Well, I am so sad because I never got to meet him, but I have, in trying to get to know you, obviously as an extension of you, I have kind of learned about him, and I'm like, wow, I
This
can't even
man,
imagine
yeah.
the combination of the two of you.
It was enough that when he first asked me to go out with him, I was like, no, your energy is overwhelming. That's from me.
Oh, too
So-
much. You are too much.
So if that gives you anything.
Yeah.
So point is, that changed. And so
Yeah.
everything had to change. I was thrown into single momdom. I had,
Mhm.
at the time, a 1 and 3-year-old.
Whew.
They're only 18 months apart, so now I have a 3 and 4-year-old.
It's going to get better soon. It's going to get better.
Yeah, those are really fun ages, but they're
They
very
are.
challenging. They're learning their
Very.
independence. And so to
Yes.
do that without a co-parent can sometimes, I feel it.
Yes.
And I left my radio job because I was a morning radio
Yeah.
show host.
Can't do that.
No, childcare doesn't exist at 4
No.
a.m.
Mm-mm.
So everything shifted.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, it's been really good for me because immediately, the day after he passed, and I will tell you, I did this thinking it was going to be for my 200 members, and then like 75,000 people watched it or something, which was mortifying to me. But I made this video the day after he died.
Oh, wow.
And only because it was already spreading like wildfire.
Mhm.
I had somebody literally message me from Jamaica.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, I got to get ahead of this.
Yes, you have to tell the story. Yeah.
And I essentially was the PR person, not just for the gym, but at this point I felt like it needed to be for my family because,
Right.
if you let people go, they'll start making up all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
So I immediately wanted to get ahead of it. Selfishly, for my sake and my kids' sake, I didn't want stories out there. I wanted people to know what happened.
Right.
And it put me immediately in a position that for me and my personality type, I'm a very authentic person, but I've not always been a super vulnerable person. I'm authentic, but I'm also, it's curated. I will tell you the truth and I will
Yeah.
show up, but I'm not going to share all those pieces. I
Yeah.
actually really don't like that about a lot of our world right now. And this was a time where I needed to be very vulnerable in saying, this happened, and also I don't have it figured out. This happened 24 hours
Right.
ago. Like, I don't
I'm
know.
opening my whole world to you, and you're going to see it all, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And you're going to be on this ride with me. And so it challenged me in that, which was really great. It also forced me to change priorities big
Yes.
time because, frankly, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, financially alone speaking, you have good days and bad days, and you have good months and bad months, good years and bad years. And it was always okay because I had the steady, good
Right.
income, health insurance, and I left that. So it
Mhm.
changes priorities. It changes how I talk about money and sales.
Yeah.
And it also changes boldness for me. Nobody's ever suggested I'm not a pretty bold person, but I think to a different kind of level now, I don't play it as safe because in an instant it can be done.
Yeah. And exactly. And the motivation has changed.
Yeah. Like I so firsthand felt the immediate shift of life is short.
Yes.
And you never know because, again, one of the healthiest men on the planet.
Right. And if it can happen to him, then
Yeah.
for the rest of us.
Yeah.
I'm not a pillar of health myself.
So, it's how do we live our best lives? How do we do it mindfully, which is something we've always taught. And I'm big, you hear me say this a lot, but big on preaching what I practice, not the other way around. I think we get that.
You practice.
Yes. I think we get that backwards a lot. We practice what we
Yeah.
preach.
Yeah.
And I'm big on doing the things first and then telling people about it.
Yeah.
And sharing the story and the
Here's
experience.
what worked for me.
Yes.
Here's what can be helpful for
Yes.
you.
And so in this sort of crushing life experience, those 5 buckets that I was
Mhm.
talking about, I'm always practicing keeping those full.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's been probably the greatest illustration. Man, I wish it wasn't, but it's been probably the greatest illustration in my business of I told you so.
Right.
If you keep those full, you can make it
Mhm.
through
Mhm.
the hardest things in life.
Yeah.
But you have to be working and keeping those full before you need it.
Yes. Yes.
And that's big for leadership too. We'll talk about that later, but leaders need to do that.
yes.
We need to keep all of these buckets full. We tend to be so driven by the business side of things and the
Mhm.
leadership side of things that we don't take care of ourselves,
Mhm.
which is not going to make us the best leader we can be.
No.
It's just
Tell us
not.
the buckets one more time because they're good.
Spiritual,
Spiritual.
physical,
Mhm.
mental, emotional, and social.
Yeah.
And social's been really challenged the last really all of them have been very challenged the
Right.
last couple of years with COVID. And that's why, again, the more we have those buckets filled before we need them,
Mhm.
this is why we don't wait till we're in crisis. Let's be building this.
Yeah.
So yeah, my leadership journey has been interesting just in it's now been 16 months
Right.
since Jeff passed. So
Right.
I'll keep you updated because I'm still learning.
Well, that's what it's all about. And that's what this
Yes.
podcast is all about. This is a journey. It's not
Oh,
a
yeah.
destination. We are all in it together. We are all growing. We are all making mistakes. We're all trying to find our way. And that's one of the goals I have for this podcast is, hey, let's just start talking to different leaders, learning about them, learning about what their unique definition of leadership is so that the rest of us can learn from each other and say, oh, I never thought about leadership in that context. I thought it was just being bossy. Now
Right.
I've come to find out maybe
Dictatorship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, Sarah does it differently. Maybe I can learn something from that.
Yeah.
And we can it's my way of creating a community.
Yeah.
I know you're very community oriented, and it's my way of creating a community of support around leadership because
Yeah.
it's hard. And there's a lot of books on it, but there's no one single go just pull this off the shelf and here's how you do it and here's
Right.
the right way. It's got to be what's the right way for you
And your
given-
people and your project
Mhm.
and I think that to be a good leader, I think you should be able to be a different kind of leader to different kinds of people or for different kinds of projects or different kinds of businesses. And people don't like to hear me say that. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm this kind of leader and I'm going to be true to that. Well, but is that the best way for this person?
Right.
And understanding people.
Mhm.
And this is more tactical here as opposed to big philosophical leadership. But one of the things that I do when we are hiring people is they have to take the Enneagram personality test.
Oh, yeah.
And so for people that don't know, it's a personality test, but it's based off of what drives you as opposed to your actions. Because you and I may have the same actions, but
Yes.
why we're doing something may look
Motivation
very
and
different.
fear.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's your number? Wait,
So,
we gotta find out what your
I'm a
number is.
3.
You're a 3.
3 wing
Okay.
2.
Okay.
So I know all of my staff members' Enneagrams. I also know all of their love languages. This is big because I want to show up and love people the way they want to be loved. And
love that.
if I could not, again, we can talk all day about leadership but if I can leave people with a very practical, it's that. Get to know
Yes.
your staff's
Yes.
Enneagrams and love language because it changes everything.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
for the Enneagram side, there's a couple of things. One, if I know their personality type, then I know certain things that they may lend themselves to really well. Like, oh, you should definitely oversee this kind of a project.
Right.
Or I can look at their personalities and go, okay, you're a 9. That's a peacekeeper. I need to keep an eye on this team because
Mhm.
you could get run over. You could be
Yeah.
steamrolled because you're just
Yeah.
going to keep the peace.
Right.
Meanwhile, you've got great ideas. That's why I hired you.
Mhm.
Or you're a 1, you're a perfectionist, which can be
Right.
great or terrible in a business setting because it can
Right.
hold you back, right?
Exactly.
So I can look at that and I can help them develop in their specific areas.
Yes.
Then the love languages. This is probably the
Mm.
biggest thing. I do it and it sounds kind of frou-frou or whatever, but do it. It's worth it. There's the 5 love languages and it's physical, touch, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, and gifts.
Mhm.
And so I can tell you every single person on staff what theirs is. And if you have a bigger staff and you need have this be something your department head does,
Yeah.
but I like to personally know it because
Yeah.
I love to give
I was going to
gifts.
say, I don't care how big your staff is. You should know it.
You should have an idea.
Yes.
And I have one person on staff right now. His name is Vince. His is quality time. And so I have on my calendar every Friday, because let's be real, Fridays, you don't get as much done anyway.
Right.
So there's a little chunk of time that's called quality time with Vince, always on my calendar. And he can come up. There's a little couch in my office. We do nothing.
We
He
hang out and
sits.
chit chat and
And it means something to Vince.
oh my gosh.
Whereas somebody that's words of affirmation, I know
Yes.
the more I'm praising them in the staff meeting, the more in front of a class, if they're a coach and they're in front of a class and I say, hey class, do you see how awesome they just coached you today? Or if they're gifts, it may be that incentive that's money driven.
Sure.
Or, you know, and so everybody's different.
Yes.
And if I can meet them where they are, one, they know that I'm paying attention to them as people.
Yes, and that you care.
And I care. And I can value them and recognize them in ways that matter. Because frankly, a lot of times people are looking at recognition opportunities and they're spending a lot of money.
It's
And
money.
let's buy everybody the watch. And let's get them a nice new name plaque. If that's a quality time person, they don't care about that at all.
No.
And you've wasted money.
Exactly.
And you've not retained them.
Pretty sure one time I ordered martini glasses because I didn't care about that stuff. And I feel like I'm often driven to drink. So I'll just order that and, you know.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, it wasn't meaningful for me.
Right.
It was a nice gesture and I appreciated the gesture, but that wasn't how I was motivated.
Yeah. So those are just, I don't know. We weren't actually supposed to get super practical and tactical now.
No,
But
that is brilliant though, because what I love is you use the word love. And I think that is a scary word for people in business leaders in general is, love. And then that's like feelings and emotion. And no, we cannot have that in the workplace. That makes me feel uncomfortable. And you just brought it right in there. And I agree with you, just given what I've observed over the past 20 years of successful leaders and just managing a team myself. I agree. Each person, it's like having children. Each child is different.
Totally different.
Same family, same parents usually, but like each child's different. And you have to learn that this style doesn't always work unilaterally. So I've got to learn what motivates these people, and it requires more time. It requires more energy and effort from the leader to say, I'm going to learn about you. I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to care about you. And I'm going to try to adapt my own style to help you be the most successful that you can be. But it's worth it. It's worth that investment because you're going to get the best return out of that person. They're going to be performing at their best level.
And hopefully you won't have to replace them as quickly.
Exactly.
Or you have great talking points for the next time you do have to replace them and you have recruitment or so I think that there's actually the business money side. I think that the feeling sides can play a role in.
Yeah.
And I'm not Miss Feelings over here. I'll be honest about that. I'm just not. And again, my Enneagram type is 3. We tend to be like, feelings, that gets in the way of productivity. You know, like get that out of here. So that's not, but caring for your people and going back to, you asked, I don't know if you actually asked this or you alluded to it, but what is your definition of
that was going to be my next question.
Oh,
so,
well, hey.
Please go ahead and answer it.
Because I think that leadership is this funny thing, and going back to everything you were saying about there's books, but there's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's good. There shouldn't be.
Right.
We don't want a bunch of the same kind of leader.
No.
We don't have a bunch of the same kind of people.
No.
And or businesses or clients or anything, right? And so, you know, I think that you could always look at communication and grit and all of these amazing things. And I definitely think as the leader, being a visionary and looking at metrics and things, all of that's important.
Yes.
But to me, the difference in a good leader and a great leader is, and again, it goes back to my little theater background here, it's the storytelling. I think it's being able to help people see, whether it be the organization or the project or the client or the staff member, what their role is in the bigger picture, and that you're a part of something much larger, and that there is a story. There is the true arc. There's a beginning, middle, and end. There's the climax. This is the part where we've got to this is the grind part. And then the fancy theater word, let's educate everybody. The fancy theater word is denouement. And that's when after the climax, you start to come down toward the end, right? And it finishes. And understanding, I say all that, it sounds crazy, but I say all of that to say, helping people understand the story. What is the story of the organization? What is the mission? And it should be a story.
Yes.
And then what is the story of your impact? Not just we served X many people. What is the story? How did you serve them? What is the impact?
Right.
And that doesn't have to be nonprofit. We tend to think about impact as nonprofit only.
Mm-hmm.
No way, man. If you've got a business, it should be having some sort of impact or else sell that thing.
Yes.
Why are you going through this?
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And so,
yeah.
understanding the storytelling side, I think that's what inspires and gets people on board and helps. I don't care if you're changing the toilet paper and you're my custodian. You need to understand the role, the character that you are in this bigger story and how it's so stinking important.
Yes, what your role
that
is,
we
what
have,
the part
yes.
you play. Yeah.
Everybody has a part. Every project has a part. It matters. And I think it's the leader's job to be the narrator and to share that and to get everybody on board, making sure everybody's a part of the same story and then making sure they understand what role they're playing in it. Otherwise, you can be a great manager.
Yeah.
You can tell people and help them do a good job and meet your objectives, but that doesn't make you a good leader necessarily.
No, that's managing.
That's management.
And there's a difference between managing and leading.
Yeah. And that's why, again, when I sent my message out to people, it was, I can look and say, this organization is successful. Here's the projects we've successfully completed. But that means you could be a terrible leader and still make money.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? We've seen it. We see it
yes.
all too often.
Yes. There's too many examples of that, actually. Another reason why we're doing this podcast. We want to show the positive side of good leadership and how you can get even better if you lead that way.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, are you willing to share some things people wrote?
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
After you disclose that you don't want to go super vulnerable. Sarah, be vulnerable with us.
That's really
Share
funny.
what's on your list.
So one of the things that kind of comes into what I was just talking about, and some of these are positive. I had a couple of things that were more critical, which is awesome.
Yes.
And they're the ones that I was like, thank you.
Yes.
So exceptional level of emotional intelligence and situational awareness, reading the feel of a room or a person's demeanor well, which gives you the power of great timing, knowing when and how to say something, which I would argue is infinitely more impactful than what to say. And I was like, ooh, thank you. That was a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
But I think that goes back to understanding the people.
Yes.
That goes back to the Enneagram type, taking the time to do the homework. And you don't have to do a ton of homework. Understand the basics.
No, but that's helpful for that person too. You're giving them a gift. It's not just helpful for you as the leader. You're giving them the gift of greater self-awareness in the process.
Hope so. Yeah.
And a common language to talk about.
Yes.
So keep going.
So this is one that has some of the things to work on. One of the things I respect about your leadership is that you never ask someone to do something you haven't or wouldn't do yourself, and that you aren't above any job or task. I think because of that, because you've been in every aspect, there was a time when you did struggle to let go of certain tasks. Ooh, leaders, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of growth in this over the past few years. This goes back to when Jeff died, my priorities shifted. So no longer am I going to take on everything and not delegate as well because I can't.
Right.
But for the people you directly lead in life, you're invested in developing their whole person. It's refreshing to see a leader truly invested in their people beyond the professional aspect of life. And you lead people that aren't face-to-face with the podcast, and it's very humble. I don't want to – now I feel like But the point is, I think that goes back to – getting to know the whole person and trying to understand the things that motivate them and drive them. And so, again, if your words of affirmation, maybe I don't even tell you did a great job. Maybe I tell your wife you did a great job because, man, doesn't that mean something?
Yes.
You know, it's that kind of stuff. And I don't know.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. One of the areas that somebody did suggest, I won't read all of these, but one of the areas somebody did suggest, and this goes back to my personality type, you're she said some really lovely things. And then she said, you're also extremely efficient in time and organization. At times, your strict adherence to this, though most likely the best way, keep others from collaborating in lieu of cooperating. And I thought that was brilliant because that's one of those areas where I'm like, ooh, and this goes back to I have different organizations and different people.
Yes.
And this is one where I am leading and we're only doing like a monthly meeting and I've got to get all the information out in 2 hours.
Yes.
And I think she's totally right about how I'm doing that because I don't want to waste people's time. I'm trying to be so efficient. that I need to actually look at that and restructure it so that maybe there's another way of communicating the updates so that we can collaborate more within the meeting
it's
setting.
Not just,
and
let me share this information with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought these are the types of things that I will latch on to that, and I will, by the next meeting, there will be a change.
That's awesome.
So I'm not going to keep reading all of these. There were some things that definitely I feel like I can talk about some of these aspects of leadership because I did feel like they were suggesting they are reflecting positives.
Good.
Because otherwise, I don't want to be like, here's how to be a great
Imposter
leader.
syndrome.
And everybody, all my staff is like,
can't believe they had her on the show.
Worst. Yeah. So.
Worst leader ever. But I just sit here and think about everything that you've got going on and your personality and just life. I mean, I would assume when you were just kind of suddenly thrust into having to do everything yourself, first of all, there was probably a part of you that was like, I'm doing it all myself now, but you can't do it all yourself. Right. And I would think that was probably really scary in the beginning too, of like, how am I going to do this? I don't know. But how did you delegation and learning what you did about your people. I mean, I would assume you had to figure out pretty quickly how to get pieces and parts moving that you weren't just doing all by yourself, even if you were capable of doing it all by yourself.
Right. And yeah, so this goes back to talking about that journey. All of this has been leading up. Mm-hmm. It's not like Jeff died and I was like, all right, I'm going to be a leader today.
Right.
let's do this. And again, I had been his co-owner. At least I was on the business kind of back end side.
Yeah, so you were
so I was doing
there.
a lot of this.
Yeah.
But I did have to learn totally new skills. He and I complemented each other very well. And so he did things and I did things and we kind of departmentalized.
Yeah.
So there were definitely things I had to learn, and the delegation side, that has been a longer, since having kids. So going back before he died, that's been a longer journey of like, got to get better at either saying, this doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Why do I care about this thing that takes all my time, makes me no money, doesn't bring me joy? Like, is it making a big impact? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And deleting. Mm-hmm. And then finding the things that I can make more automated. And we have so many tools now in this world. Yeah. And then finding the things that I can delegate, which means finding the right people. Yes. That's the trickier part. Yes. And you're an HR expert, I mean, that's the trickier part. It is. And so being really defined, this goes back to your definition of leadership. Mm-hmm. If you know your definition of leadership, you can find the people that will work with that and that will be better on your team to be led. Yes. Yes. And I think that's something that took some years to learn. I learned a lot from my husband's mistakes. So perfect. He was the most inspirational, like, community leader. Man, he could just look at you and you'd be like, whatever you want, I'll do it. Like he was just this force. I can't even explain it. But on the interpersonal side, on the back end, he wasn't as good. He was such a good communicator, but almost too big. Yeah. He wasn't good at he couldn't
do the small.
Yes. Here's the day-to-day. Here's how I train you. It's just like, all right, go coach and change their lives. And it's like,
no, okay, but how do I do that?
And teach them that they need to mop at the end of the day. You know, like, there's also these other pieces, but he was such a big picture guy. So I learned a lot about the fact that you can be a really great leader and a really bad leader at the same time. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I knew that before.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're either one or the other.
Yes.
But
you can be both at the same time, because you can be really great at leading an organization, but that doesn't mean on that more intimate personal side you're great. Or you can be really great one-on-one, and this is where I think a lot of more introverted leaders shine. Mm-hmm. But then whenever it comes to getting your community to rally behind your brand or the impact you're trying to make, you don't have it. So being able to understand that and develop both sides. Yeah. And then there's also, good leaders aren't just about people. They are also about meeting objectives. Sure. And understanding data and understanding that, like, money needs to come in or else you can't serve anybody next year because you're closed.
Exactly. So there's balance that piece of it too.
Yeah. And so leadership's complex because you can be good and bad at the same time. Mm-hmm. You can have very different areas of expertise and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest thing is, again, that storytelling and then getting the right people to make up.
Yeah. And then asking for feedback. I mean, you just gave an awesome example for other leaders of checking in with your people, because we all tell ourselves stories, but we also have blind spots about how we're doing. So I may think I'm great at something communicating, and someone says, okay, Laura, yeah, you're great at the big picture piece, but also you're not great at setting expectations and
or you
being
never
clear.
show up to my meetings.
Yes. Or, you run late to everything, and I don't like that because it makes me feel unimportant. Hypothetically. That may have been hypothetical feedback I got once or twice.
Yeah, right.
So, but if you never ask, and it's humbling, it is vulnerable to ask for that feedback. I worked with a leader who, at the end of our performance review, which was really supposed to be his time to give me feedback, he would always ask, how can I be a better leader for you?
Yeah.
And that the first time he asked it, I wasn't prepared for it. And then I realized he was going to keep asking that. So I had to get ready. But I just asking that question increased my loyalty and commitment to him as my leader, because the fact that he even asked a question mattered so much to me, that he cared to know the answer. Now, obviously, you got to act on it. And you already said, hey, this is going in, I'm implementing these things that I'm hearing about. So you have to act on it too. But just the fact that he even asked the question was so meaningful to me.
But I think it's also about the building of the trust up to that. So the reason I believe this, that the reason people felt comfortable sending me even criticism is because they know that when I said good or bad, I won't be mad at you, that I meant it.
That you meant it.
And so if you're the kind of boss who has been more in a or you haven't a dictatorship, or you haven't built that trust, they're not gonna be honest with you about the things you're not doing well.
You're doing great.
Hey, you're awesome. Writing my resume for my next job. So
no, but I'm glad you brought that up, because
I just think
you can't miss that step.
I think it's a really important step. And one of the ones that I probably won't have internet service to do this, but it was really moving, was one of the staff members said if I told him to run through a wall, that wall would be coming down. And I thought that was so cool. But he was saying it meaning trust. He felt like he had built trust with me. He had watched me do the things I do. I do a weekly check-in with every single department head, or if you're a smaller group, you can do it with each individual person. And at the end of every single one, I'm like, how can I serve you better? Yeah. Because going back to leadership, it's just all the circles of this.
Yes.
I think that another area where we all can mess up is putting these definitions on leadership and forgetting that to be a leader is to be the ultimate servant. Mm-hmm. And if that's not how you're thinking about leadership, I just don't think you have it right.
It's not to be the boss.
It's not. Yeah. You have the hardest job. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we think it's the job with the most glory, or it's the job, but also it's the hardest job.
It is.
And there is going to be the most expected of you.
Yeah.
And you have to be a servant. And this goes back, this is just basic good leadership. You can look at, famous people now that study this. You can go back to biblical, and it says it very clearly, I think. If you want to be a great leader, you have to serve.
Yes.
And I think we mess that up a lot.
Yes, I think so too. Over the course of my career, I've always been impressed when employees came to me and said, I don't like being a leader and I don't want to do this anymore. And I would say, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for knowing that. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for recognizing that it's okay to say, I don't like this, or I'm not good at this, and I don't want to do this, and I want to venture into maybe a different career path. Because I do think sometimes people feel that that's the path you have to take to make the most money. Not
interesting.
Necessarily.
I think it's the path to lose the most potentially. It has the potential for it, but anyway.
For sure. Like, if I want to grow and, like I've arrived when I'm leading other people and it's hard. I mean, to do it right and to do it well, it is hard. And really if you want to break down the money piece of it, you're actually probably losing money.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to break it down by how much hours, how many hours you put into investing in others, you know. So again, there is a return and there's a payoff for doing that.
Yeah.
But
there's
you've got to
potential.
check.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to check your motivation, I
Mhm.
think, around why do you want to be a leader? What is it that's appealing to you?
I think that's so good. I think that's because I also think we're just in a world where it's all about success,
Yes.
achievement. And you don't have the achievement unless you had the promotion, unless you're in the higher
Mhm.
leadership position.
The title, the money.
And we're just not all supposed to be leaders.
Mm-mm.
And even, so this is, again, part of this growth piece is, and part of the growth since kids and since Jeff passing, it continues. But especially those people that were kind of born leaders,
Mhm.
we tend to look around and think, well, I can lead that better. Or
Oh,
not even better,
yes.
but like, you need a leader? Great.
Yeah.
I'm the girl for the job, right? That's me. And that's so wrong. And one of the things that I actually daily pray for is wisdom to discern when to be a leader and when to be a follower. And I think that's really hard. And even within my own organizations as a leader, there are
Yes.
times, this goes back to this, whatever that criticism was about, there had been times where I couldn't let go of things.
Mhm.
There were times when I have needed to give a project over and be the follower. And I'm getting way better at it.
Yeah,
Because I'm like, I
that's
trust
not
you. Go do
easy.
that.
Yeah.
But it's knowing big scale, little scale, when to be a leader, and not to
Mhm.
think that being a leader means you have to lead a corporation or a business. You can be a leader in your home in huge ways.
Yes. In your community.
In your community. And even if you are very introverted and this, like, all of this makes you feel very uncomfortable,
Mhm.
if you're out on the rail trail and there's a piece of garbage and you pick that up and put that away, that is actionable leadership, especially if someone else sees you do it.
Mhm.
And not that you're doing it to be seen, but
No.
that's actionable leadership. We think too large scale with leadership.
I agree.
We can be leaders on such micro scales that make major impact,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially if you're in a household situation. Like,
Oh my gosh. Yes. And there's so much of that kind of hidden or quiet leadership that's happening all the time, all around us. And you're right. I think everybody's looking for these big splashy moments, but it's really more of those little moments that just accumulate day in, day out. You know, the weekly check-ins that you're having with people, the time that you take to find out, you know, how they're wired, what motivates them, how can you best recognize and reward them. All of those things, it may just be a simple, hey, great job today, or hey, I told your wife that you did a great job today, you know, and it may seem simple and quick and, you know, but all of that starts to add up. And it's those, you know, smaller, quieter, hidden moments too that matter to people.
absolutely.
Okay. I got to hear about, you got a lot going on with all your businesses and then Forgiven Warrior. So just walk us through what each of these businesses do, your role in them. And I just want to hear all of it.
Yeah. So everything is under a greater umbrella of community wellness initiatives.
Okay. Love it.
And so it kind of divvies out. So we have CrossFit Morgantown, which is a CrossFit gym, but I tell people it is not whatever stereotype you have in your mind. Picture that and then go to the opposite.
Good to know.
If you come into my 11:30 class, there is likely 20 people there. 3 of them are 75 and older, and then there's probably 4 pack and plays of like moms with little babies. And we're just not whatever your stereotype is. And one of the things that I'm really proud of with this business is our values. So our values are friendship, love, loyalty. And in a membership of about 200 people, I would honestly, like, I'm not a gambling lady, but I would put money down that if you asked any of my members, any of them, what are the values of this organization without skipping a beat, friendship, love, loyalty. And because if it's going to be our values, we're going to make sure everyone knows we're held accountable, they're held accountable. It matters.
You're preaching what you practice with that.
Yes. That is the goal. And so everyone is on board. And we are a business that, not that we turn people away, but I have said, I actually think this place would be a better fit for you.
Yeah. Because
I really want to be the fit for you. And I really want us to make an impact on your life. And we're not a fit for everybody. I don't think anybody should be a fit for everybody.
No.
Then you're just not doing it
And
right.
there's enough options that
Yes.
if it's not the right fit, they can go
Yes.
somewhere else. Yeah.
So it's all about being fit to serve. This goes back. You see this common theme, right?
I love
because when we're not well, we just can't serve the world the same way. We can't live up to our purpose on this earth. And whether that's as a leader or as a mom or, I mean, as anything.
Yes.
A human being.
Yes.
Right? So we're just trying to help people be well. And we focus on those 5 buckets within the gym space. We do a community service project every month. And they don't have to, but... And so we partner with all sorts of organizations over the years. We put that fit to serve in action. We do a social event every month working on that social bucket.
Oh, I love that.
We've actually had a couple of people come to us because they didn't care about the physical work outside, but they wanted to build community, and we're working on that. And we've had a couple people, we have a couple counselors in town who have recommended us for children or for clients that have social anxiety to help because it's such a nurturing,
supportive environment.
place. So really proud of that. Anyways, that's CrossFit Morgantown. We also get you real fit. So it's not the throwing up and all that stuff people see, though. It's not, dudes flipping tires.
Yeah.
It's me. Like, it's however you can mix lifting weights, which is so important for women.
Yes.
Ladies, I'm going to take a second here because this is my little wellness PSA.
Yes.
Women think I can't do CrossFit because it's flipping weights
tires
and flipping tires and it's all this stuff. And I'm like, you guys are the ones that need it the absolute most because we know that strength training is going to impact, well, it impacts everything, but our bone density, we've got a problem with that, ladies. Yes. It's going to impact how we move, how we function in everyday life. And we are leaders.
Yes.
I don't know a single woman that's not a leader. I'm sorry. I don't know a single one.
Me neither.
So, And it goes back to my whole thing. Now I'm making this. It's fit to serve. And it's also the number one reason why people end up in assisted living is because they cannot get up and down off the toilet.
I was so hoping
That's
you would tell everyone that because that was mind-blowing the first time I heard you say it. Say it one more time into the camera.
So the number one reason why people end up in assisted living is because they cannot get up and down off the toilet. So if you come to me and I can just keep working with you on air squatting.
Yes.
That's what that is.
Yes.
That is what that is. I could help change quality of life. And so it doesn't have to be back squatting 800 pounds. I've got to keep you moving in ways that are very functional. And that's what CrossFit is. It's cross-functional fitness. How can you deadlift something? Yeah, we might do it with a bar and weights in the gym, but actually I'm showing you how you pick up the couch to move it.
Sure. Yeah.
Or a kid. How do you throw a kid up in the air in a safe way?
Without throwing out your back.
So it's all about safety and living this life better. So that's CrossFit Morgantown.
Okay.
Love it.
Yes.
Can you tell? I just love that place.
I love it too. And I don't even go there. That's why I'm trying to get her to open up one closer to me.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe like a satellite.
Yeah,
we'll just
satellite.
travel. So then we have Giosi Complete Wellness.
Okay. Yes.
And this is where I do a lot of, I have an office in the gym for Giosi Complete Wellness, like in the same space, but I do wellness coaching.
Awesome.
And so we look at these 5 buckets because there are health coaches and there are clearly physicians.
Yes.
And there are therapists and there are all of these different things. I'm none of those. I am a wellness consultant. And so I work with you on these 5 buckets, and it's really about building habits. How do we build habits slow, build momentum over the long term, not instant satisfaction, which is so hard for us. How do we
sustainable behavior change?
That is going to make huge impact.
Yeah.
And I do a lot with mindful eating. I'm very anti-diet, which is very confusing to people. But again, I don't think it's sustainable to diet.
No.
And if diets work for you, then why do you have to keep doing them? Why are you on another one?
That's a good point.
Well, but
Sarah.
that diet really worked for me. Okay, but then why are we talking about it then?
Why are you doing it
You
again
should just
or
be done.
trying a different one? Or
So it's about, and for me, that's really how we view ourselves. It's mindset and it's positivity around body image for women. I do a lot of body image work, do a lot with young women. And this is where you and I really connect a lot on that. Yeah. And I do the podcast and gosh, I have courses. I have an online course that's 28 days and it's positive affirmations, and it's psychology. It's understanding what's your relationship to your body.
Mm-hmm.
What's your caregiver's relationship to food when you were growing up? Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we start to break down just so that we can understand our mindset, because that's where everything starts.
Yes.
So I do that.
All the habits and all
talking
of
too much
that.
because I love this
No,
stuff.
my gosh, I love it too. Keep going.
So
keep
that's
going.
Giosi Wellness, and I do a lot. So I do individual, we do executive coaching, all sorts of things, where we bring in, we're trying to make healthier communities as a whole.
Yes.
Then there's Forgiven Warrior, and this is my new baby. And this is the charitable organization. And so Forgiven Warrior, my husband had it tattooed on his body.
Oh, wow.
So that's where that comes from. Immediately I said, this is what we're calling it. It just like didn't even, there was no hesitation for me. And we fundraise, how much time we have? Because I get too excited.
You're good. Keep going.
We are focused on community wellness initiatives. But here's one of my biggest pet peeves. And this is for all the leaders out there, whether you're here locally or like, I don't care.
Wherever.
I think we have a real kind of problem, certainly in our community, duplication of services. And people saying, well, I want to do this thing. And it might be a great idea, but they haven't done their homework to see that other people are already doing it. Or they say, I know they're doing it, but I can do it better, as opposed to trying to feed into and collaborate with and partner with to make something that exists better. And so what happens is we have this oversaturation. We have people fighting over nonprofit funds, and it's so gross.
Yes.
And we can't make impact.
Exactly.
You just can't.
Yes. Everyone's just getting in each other's way. And it's all in the spirit of trying to do good things.
Yes. And I think a lot of that does come down to, I hope I don't offend anybody, but I think it comes down to ego, and we want to do it our way. We want to do it with our people. We want to take the credit.
Yes.
And instead of looking at our community and going, actually, we're just really sick, and we just need to do something about it. So this organization, when I say we've started a charitable organization, the main focus and goal is to help take wellness initiatives that already exist and amplify them, and to either help fundraise to that, because maybe I've got some resources for fundraising that they don't have, to maybe pour into that, or to build connections. So can I, because of this organization, we have a great connection with this physical therapist. Can I partner them with Meals on Wheels? Yeah. So that they're teaching the volunteers how to stretch before they're in a car for 6 hours driving meals around, or things like that. Like how can I get nutritionists to partner with our local food pantries so that we're distributing food to people who need it that's also going to serve their bodies and fuel them and help them to be better and not more sick.
Yes.
So it's about partnering.
That is so cool, because you're just connecting.
I'm the
and
connector.
Building bridges.
Yes. And so we fundraise to help with that. We do some corporate trainings. And we are a baby. This is our first year. Like, we've already done some things, which is really exciting. But how can I partner local gyms with, certain kids activities and things like that to just be building this up? I love it.
I love that concept. I mean, because you could have started out like, well, we saw a need with, even though there's all this duplication, we thought, well, let's just start another nonprofit. And instead you went in a totally different direction, which I love. Like, theme of this episode for me is like Sarah Giosi gets rid of all stereotypes about wellness, about leadership, about CrossFit, about just all the stereotypes going out the window here, which I love, because you are doing it your way, but you're doing it in a manner that serves and that helps. Truly,
I hope,
serves a need.
I mean, that's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal. And getting people telling the story, helping people understand, why is our community sick? We hear it all the time. We know the statistics. We know we're 50th or 49th but why? And so once we start to break down that why, let's tell the story of how we can change that. And then let's start to have this organization understand this organization's story
and work together
so they can do it together, as opposed to everybody working in these little silos.
And like you said, fighting and competing
Yes.
instead of working together and having, strength in numbers, much stronger
Yes.
impact if they just collaborate.
That's what community is, right?
Yeah.
It's when we actually bring people together to do something.
What a novel concept.
I know. And so community service is always funny to me because everybody's fighting for volunteers and fighting for the last donor dollar and I'm like, or we could just all come together.
Yes.
And I think, there are organizations, I don't want to say that don't do that. I think something like United Way that's, they do that. And I have a rich history with United Way. And so it's not that these things aren't being done, but I think that the actual partnering together, because even United Way, they're raising funds and getting the community excited, but then how are we getting the organizations within that are getting the funding to partner with each other?
Exactly. And know who each other, I mean, it's amazing to me. So many people don't even realize there's other agencies out there, like you said, that are doing this overlapping or, redundant work.
Yeah.
So
those are and again, all of that though is under one big community wellness initiatives, making people better, literally wellness, so that they can go out and serve.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so something I am very curious about you is with all the time and energy you put into other people's buckets, how do you get your buckets filled so that you can pour into
What
others?
A good question.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. So this is a top priority.
Yeah.
In businesses, they always tell the owner, pay yourself first, which I've not been good at. I'll be honest. There are some things I'm still working on with my leadership. But I think that about wellness. Pay yourself first. And you can use all of those cliches of the air mask on the airplane, put your mask on first. You can't pour out from an empty cup, all of those. But they're cliches because they're true.
They are true. Yes.
They are very important.
Yeah.
And so personally, I have time set aside on my calendar every week that is blocked out. And it's a non-negotiable blocked out time with rare exception that I have childcare and I'm blocked out at work. So I have neither of those things.
Perfect.
And because the flip side of all of this that we didn't I have two amazing kids. And again, Jeff had a lot of energy. You've met me. Can you imagine what my 3 and 4-year-old, and they're healthy. So their energy, they're not like lethargic sitting on the couch.
Laying around. Yeah.
Nah. This morning at 7 a.m.
They are very well.
Oh, they're well. And this morning at 7 a.m. they had their little baby shirts off and Arlen said, "We exercising." I was like, oh, it's too early, guys. Even for me.
Don't quite have your energy level just yet. Give me a minute.
So that is huge for me.
Yes.
And how I pour into them. And what's cool is I do try to incorporate them. So this morning they knew as I was getting ready, Arlen told Mackie, that's their names, Mackie, Mommy's got an interview today for a podcast. Like he knows.
Oh, they're incorporated into.
They're a piece of it.
Yeah.
And we talk, sometimes I'll throw ideas by them.
I love it.
And I know that they're 3 and 4, but we do a family meeting every week.
That's awesome.
And we talk about what's coming up for the weekend. Do they have ideas? What are things we can do better? And going back to values, we have family values. And again, I've been super public about these because it's accountability. It's also like, we're going to live this life.
Yes.
Don't be a butthole.
I love it.
Do be a helper. Do hard things hard and live with gratitude.
Oh.
And we incorporate that into our absolute everyday life. And there are moments where my little angels will turn it on me and be like, "Mommy, I think you're being a butthole." And I have to self-evaluate there and go, okay, this is a moment where I will take that.
Yes.
So, I think looking at all of these things, knowing where your priorities are, having the values, running things through those filters, and then having the time to say, all right, I also know I need help. So I do have some help with childcare 3 days a week for, a handful of hours so that I can get true work done.
Right.
And I do have an amazing friend and family group. I mean, it's nuts.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised knowing you. Like, who wouldn't want to be a friend of yours or a supporter of yours? So I'm glad to hear that.
No, they're awesome. And they're so inspiring. And, they say surround yourself with the people that you want to.
Yes.
They're just the best. And we live life together. And it goes almost back to this 1950s idea of community where we do show up to each other's houses with meals if we know that the other person's been busy, and we will volunteer to pick up each other's kids or do things like we'll show up.
The whole it takes a village. I mean, that is true. It's true. Yes.
And I think it's a harder time and place in the world to find your tribe, as they say.
Yes.
And so, you know, that's a whole separate podcast on like, how do you do that? But I do it because those are going to be the people that will show up. And in a time like what we've had, man, to have, and gosh, all you have to do is look at Jeff's Facebook or my Facebook. I'm never, by the way, I'm the worst at social media. But if you...
Well,
that's something I delegate.
Like you probably have a lot of time for that, so it's okay.
I think it's a rabbit hole, so I delegate that one. But if you just look for a second, you will see the outpouring. And I think that happens a lot when somebody dies. We idealize them, and this was like different level.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the differences was people weren't idealizing Jeff. It wasn't this like ideal version.
It was honest.
It was, And so his impact has allowed us to be nurtured by people in a way that I could have never dreamed. And so for me, self-care is about building those relationships and having your people. And then it's about having true quiet time. And even on the days I have my kids, I'm a work from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And even then we have a couple hours that's everybody quiet time. You have to go to your separate rooms.
Yeah.
We are not hanging out, and you can do what you want in your quiet time, but no noise.
Right, but you're teaching them the importance of that too.
We need to clear those brains, and if they don't have quiet time, they're different humans.
Yes,
right, because then they're wrestling.
Grown-ups.
Yes, this is a survival tactic, not a self-care. Yeah, no.
Yes.
So I think quiet time blocked out, and it's different for everybody. My personality type, I love to sometimes just sit and do nothing on the couch. And we frown on that. We frown on TV. We frown on couch time. I'm like, no, know your personality type. I need 2 hours of pointless television sometimes.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes.
Now, if that's my whole life, it's not.
Or if it's an escape from your life.
Right. That's different.
Yeah.
But I can sit down and enjoy a movie and just not, and that can be some of my self-care time without the boys. That is just about me.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a massage.
Yeah.
You know?
It's what works for you and what's restorative for you.
Yes.
But you're right, you have to know that.
Yes.
And you have to take the time to kind of investigate that for yourself.
And I think much like the building trust, you also have to build into your absolute daily, whether it be the quiet time or just general wellness, right? How am I filling up my buckets each day? And you might not every day fill up every bucket, but am I working out? Am I eating in ways? Again, I'm anti-diet, but I want to eat things that are going to make me feel good. I know, look, I love to go and have some queso and chips like all day, cheese quesadilla, bring it on. But I also know I immediately want a nap. That's a sign for me that that's not the thing to fuel me. Doesn't mean I don't do it sometimes.
Yeah.
But
you know what
I need
it does
to be fueled.
for you.
People say I'm so energetic. I'm like, yeah, because I've fueled myself today.
Exactly. And you have to be. I mean, you have to show up every day.
Yeah. And so it's not about a size. It's not about a perfect body. And I think when we start to remove those things, that's the stuff that gets in our way.
Yeah.
When it's about just what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't feel hard to nourish our bodies and to eat in ways because it's not about
you get a reward.
Punishing ourselves.
Yeah, you get a reward for doing it. And I agree because I like me some chips and queso
right,
too,
man.
But
if you didn't already have another meeting, that's what we'd be doing right after this. So we can take our Friday afternoon nap.
Have to.
Right.
What is it? Preach what we practice.
Right.
But that's true.
The point is, I think that self-care being built into every day and then actually having true blocked out time. And it's the first thing people want to give up. It's the first thing they want to sacrifice. And it's the last thing you should.
Non-negotiable.
That budget sheet can wait, actually, because you need to take care of yourself. And if you do, you will be healthier, more energetic, more focused. We understand the science now. You have Google, guys. Just Google health and leadership, and you're going to see all of the studies that have been done.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to show you why it's important to be healthy if you want to be a good leader.
Yeah.
Changes your brain chemistry, your hormones, everything.
Yeah. Everything.
Do it. And come to me. I would love to work with people.
I have to say, I'm sure people are going to be inspired by this conversation. So if someone's listening in and is thinking, okay, I want to devote more time and energy to wellness, what's like a first step, like a little actionable thing they can do to get themselves on that path?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's tricky because I think first, going off of those 5 buckets I gave, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, and mental health, first thing I would do is just think kind of broadly about those and which one needs your attention the most.
Okay, that's good.
Because for some people, it may be getting into the gym. For some people, it may be finding your tribe.
Right.
For some people, it may be maybe you're spiritual, and that doesn't have to be church, but maybe it is. Maybe you need to find a new church or a small group, or maybe that is even just that quiet time. Yeah. Maybe it's just that solitary time. All of these different things. I think kind of pinpoint out of those 5 which one needs the most, and then come up with one little thing. I am all about momentum building. Do one tiny thing. That's it. Just one thing. Don't try to change your whole life overnight. That's not going to work.
No, I've tried that before. It doesn't
work.
Right?
I mean, we've all done it. Yeah. It doesn't work. And we know it.
Super restrictive diet, and I'm going to exercise for 12 hours a day.
Yes.
It
just doesn't work long term. It might work for that event that's coming up next week, but it's not going to make your life better. And it's not going to make you a better servant in the world.
No.
So that's what I would say. And surround yourself with people that care about the same things you do. If you're surrounded by people that are, and go to Mindset First, that are super negative, super critical, don't have a nice thing to say, and they don't care about any of those buckets of complete wellness, it's going to be so hard for you to do that.
Without a doubt.
So just like find people, and you can do it. Everybody can do it.
Community to support. But that is so true, because you can have the best of intentions and the motivation to want to get healthier, better, whatever the word is. But if you're surrounded in an environment of, people or things that aren't supporting that, and even maybe trying to destroy the progress you are trying to make, then it's quite a hill to climb.
And that's tricky. I'm not saying go out and divorce your husband because he brings home,
Pizza
and I'm not
night.
saying quit your job because there's always something in the communal kitchen. I'm not saying that, but start to understand and find some people that will build you up and what it is that you are after.
Yeah, and give you some accountability too.
Yeah.
Because that's important.
Yeah, but I think it's all about the self side. Understand who you are and what you want. And it's okay to be really honest about it.
Yeah. I love that.
There you go.
Gosh. Okay, I've already decided that. Will you come back for future episodes? Okay. Because we could just go on and on and on.
There's like 10 sub episodes in here.
Yeah. But in the meantime, if people want more Sarah goodness, you can listen to the Potential podcast. You can go see her at CrossFit Morgantown.
Yes, we're on the Green Bag Road.
Giosi Complete Wellness. You can get one-on-one coaching. Which is awesome.
Let me say this too. And this doesn't make me any money, but part of that community side, to wrap this up, at CrossFit Morgantown every single Saturday at 10 a.m. totally free.
Oh,
it's the only class we have.
That's so cool.
We close the whole place down on Saturday except for 10 a.m. and it's free to everyone. Always.
Very cool.
Because we know not everybody can maybe find it right now in their budget or something, but we want you to be a part of our community. Don't let it, even if it's once a week, come out.
Yeah.
And we would love to have you. Yeah.
Green Bag Road, Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah.
For those,
we
have someone listening from Jamaica. It's
right.
A longer trip to get here. So FYI.
Yeah.
What have we left on the table for today that you want to make sure that we cover?
I think the biggest thing is that self-reflection, whether you are the person that's looking to be healthier or you are the leader or whatever, where whoever's listening to this, the self-reflection side to say, this is what I want, this is who I am, and owning it, as opposed to fighting against it. It doesn't mean you can't develop into a better version of you, but especially for the leaders, how do you define leadership? And then look around at where you are a leader. Does it align with how you?
And does your team describe you in the way that you aspire to be and think you are being? That's
what I would say.
Love it. Okay. I do a lightning round at the end. I kind of felt like
Oh.
you were a 7 on Enneagram. I see 7 out of you.
Oh, that's so funny.
Mhm.
Not even a little bit.
So-
A little bit.
Can we be 7 and do a lightning round?
Yeah, absolutely. My husband was an
Questions?
Uber 7, by the way.
I
Didn't even
that
have a
makes
wing.
sense
He
to
was just
me.
nothing but
Just
7.
Full 7 all the time. I love it. Okay. We will do a 1-minute lightning round to answer. Well, this will speak to maybe the competitive achievement side. To answer as many questions as you can in a minute time.
Oh gosh.
All right. Yeah.
Nervous.
We'll see how we do here. Okay. Let me set my timer. On your mark, set, go. What season best fits your personality?
Fall.
Okay. I like how you're like, duh.
Well, I wanted
what's
to make sure it wasn't season of life like motherhood. Or,
Oh.
No, fall.
Okay. What's your most used emoji in text?
The heart eyes.
Oh, I like that
Yeah.
one. Okay. What book, song, movie, podcast has had the greatest impact on your life?
Ooh, anything Ryan Holiday.
Okay. Very good. What's something about you that surprises people when they first hear it?
I was a traveling puppeteer once.
Okay. On the next episode,
Yeah, right.
we'll be talking about Sarah being a traveling
Had a lot of
puppeteer.
weird jobs, yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. Fill in the blank. I spend too much money on.
Ooh.
I stumped her.
Oh, you did stump me on this one. I just
Yeah.
don't spend a lot of money. Probably. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe coffee.
Coffee.
Probably
Ooh,
coffee.
ooh, I like that choice. Okay.
Jeez, that one
I
took
know,
up all
I
my
stumped you. I'll
time.
ask you one more. What celebrity would you want to play you in a movie?
Oh, I love Candace Cameron Bure. Jeff and I, my husband and I, we used to call her CCB because we were obsessed with the Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh.
And we knew her so well as
Same.
CCB.
CCB.
So yeah, DJ Tanner. I'd love for DJ Tanner to play me.
DJ, yes. She would do a
Yeah.
good job. Okay.
Yeah, although going back to the 90s, Boy Meets World, the girl who played Topanga,
Mhm,
I get
yes.
people tell me all the time that
Really?
which I don't see at all. And actually, I almost
see,
don't like that. But
I don't see that.
maybe she'd be a good
I
fit.
could see CCB.
I-
Yeah, I
I love me
see,
some
like,
CCB.
Yeah, the energy and the
Queen of
yeah.
Christmas.
All right.
So-
Also on the next episode, Hallmark Christmas movies. Okay. Thank you so
Yes.
much. I just love you and your energy and everything that you brought to this conversation. There was so much that you packed in. Typical Sarah, you were very efficient. You packed in a lot to this and the timer went off again. All
So
right.
this show was supposed to be over 15 minutes ago.
Exactly. And with that, we will wrap the podcast. But thank you again for being here.
Oh,
and
thanks.
You'll come back.
Hey, this is
right?
better than our little coffee date. This was fun.
No, this was really fun.
No,
Thank
it's
you
not
for
better.
being
We'll do
here.
that too.
Okay, very good.
All right.
All right, that's all the time we have today, folks. Thank you for joining another episode of Leadership Rediscovered. Shine bright, everyone.